Well, it's been at least 7 days, which means it's time for a new This Week in Film, the weekly podcast where we come together to discuss the movies we've seen over the past week. I'm Nick Panunto, joined as always by Charlie Chester and Ray Rayndom.
What's up?
I spent a lot of time writing that.
It's just every time you say the exact same thing, just in a different way. And it's getting more and more interesting each week.
I'm going to use more words each time. Diving right in this week, again, is me this time.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Last night, I watched the movie from the 1980s, Dirty Dancing, directed by Emile Ardolino. And I don't know if you guys know anything about this movie. You don't remember much about it.
Not much,
right?
no.
No, every female.
Would you say that this is like a family friendly? Like this is a movie that like daughters and mothers watch together?
Well, every one of my young cousins watched this as children. Like this was their favorite movie.
Yeah, this movie completely revolves around a young girl's abortion.
That
is the centerpiece of the family-friendly movie.
It's good. It's good. It's good for the kids to learn about.
So it's a rich country club, and at this country club, Patrick Swayze stars in the movie, and he's a dance instructor.
Right.
And his dance partner is this blonde girl named Penny. Penny gets pregnant, and they need to take care of it. Jennifer Grey making friends with the lower class people, which is a big deal too, that she's hanging out with the worker class.
She's slumming it.
And she's having a blast, and then she finds this opportunity to become a dancer because Patrick Swayze's dance partner is pregnant and she has to go have an abortion on Thursday. So Jennifer Grey needs to learn how to dance because the blonde Penny's going to be busy.
Right.
And
Swayze's baby?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's not Swayze's
Alleged?
baby. Well, I mean, he takes responsibility for her, but just because she's his childhood friend.
Right.
But because Swayze's the man in this movie. He's
when isn't he the man in any movie?
Right. Well, it leads to further confusion because her dad,
He's
played
dead,
by
isn't he?
Jerry Orbach, yeah.
Jerry
Orbach has to save this girl's life. And then when he leaves, he sees that Patrick Swayze's there and his daughter's there, and he's like, you're all terrible people. And he leaves. Anyway, they continued to dance and date.
What's the age difference?
I'd say Swayze's got to be 25 in the movie. And babies, like Jennifer Grey's age, we could not figure it out because she has a sister.
Her name is Baby?
Yeah,
I've been confused by this. Okay.
Everyone calls her Baby, but her real name in the movie is Frances, which was supposed to be a reveal in the movie. Nobody cares.
So the story catalyst is an abortion.
Yep.
The girl's name is Baby. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a big theme going on here.
Yeah. I just don't understand why so many families and like this is considered a family movie.
We talked about this earlier, like how like Monster Squad was like you were being bad by watching that as a kid because these kids are smoking and cursing and everything. I feel like this is the female version of Monster Squad. Like I don't remember like my sisters and my cousins like they would sneak off to watch this movie. This wasn't like hey, let's all sit around and watch this movie together.
It gets like risque, at times.
It gets very risque. The dancing when they go to the worker's house and they're just listening to like rock and roll and they're all grinding on each other
and
for
sweating.
Hours. All I can think is they're all in pain tomorrow. Like they're all rubbed chafy bad.
Oh, boy.
Like, and then especially if you think about the actors and how many takes they probably had to do of them just grinding on each other. I will say that there was terrific chemistry between Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey. The two of them were terrific together.
Was there any actual romance on set, do you know?
I don't know. I didn't look it up. I didn't want it ruined for me.
You didn't want to ruin?
Like there are some really honest moments in that movie where like at one point they're in the water and they're practicing lifts and he lifts her up out of the water and he's like don't and then they fall and they, like the laughter that they do, you can tell
it's probably genuine.
The soundtrack is eclectic. Because I bet when the movie came out in, I want to say 88, it was supposed to be a contemporary plus the 60s kind of a soundtrack. So it's got music from the 60s and then modern music, which was like music from the 80s at the time.
Right.
But when you listen to it now, it's just this hodgepodge of weird pop hits from the 80s and 60s classics. And Swayze even sings that one song of his that was real popular. She's like the wind.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like you really enjoyed it.
I had a good time watching it. You know,
Nick, you're beaming right now. You're glowing.
I would recommend watching Dirty Dancing.
No,
just for the comments that you can make, because it is a fun movie to watch and make fun of. Ray, what did you see this week?
This week I watched the 1995 action thriller Crimson Tide.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Directed by the late Tony Scott and starring Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington.
You guys love yourself some Tony Scott. We've talked a lot of Tony Scott in this show.
He's a good director.
He is a good director.
I will say this is not one of my favorite Tony Scott movies. Good soundtrack, or shouldn't say soundtrack, score. Hans Zimmer does the score, which I did not realize.
Nice.
The movie starts out with this statement: the three most powerful men in the world, the President of the United States, the President of the Russian Republic, or the captain of the U.S. nuclear missile submarine. It takes place, I guess, around 1995. It's kind of an alternative history thing. There's a civil war going on in Russia, and there's these Russian ultra-nationalists that take control of a nuclear missile base and are threatening to use nukes against the U.S. and the Russian government for trying to stop them. Gene Hackman is the commanding officer of the USS Alabama, and he hires Denzel Washington to be his executive officer, which is basically the second in command of the submarine. Movie is stacked with great actors, including Denzel and Gene Hackman. You also have Viggo Mortensen, James Gandolfini, Ricky Schroeder, Steve Zahn.
Oh, Ricky Schroeder.
Yes, Ricky Schroeder. Ryan Phillippe is also in the movie, and I'm pretty sure he did not have any lines.
From Delaware.
Oh, yeah, Delaware. Yep. Warehouse guy?
That's what the kids call it.
Nice. Denzel and Gene Hackman basically have two different views of war. Gene Hackman's kind of he calls himself a simple military man, basically saying if the president tells him to push a button to launch nukes, he's going to do it. Denzel's more along the lines of, I'll do it, but you need to tell me why I'm doing it. While they're on the submarine, while they're out in the Mediterranean, they get a emergency message saying the Russian nationalists have figured out the codes to this nuclear subbase. They're getting ready to launch within the next couple of hours, saying that the U.S. Alabama has to get their nukes ready to launch in case they do. While they're waiting, they encounter another Russian submarine. That Russian submarine launches a torpedo at them. They narrowly miss it, but it explodes next to their ship and kind of like throws off their communication. While the explosion goes off, they get another message.
Oh, no.
When the explosion kind of cuts off their communication, so while they're getting the message, it doesn't get sent through like completely.
Right.
So they basically get half of a message, and they don't know what it says. Gene Hackman seems to think it says launch the nukes, even though it doesn't say that.
Right.
Denzel, the voice of reason, is like, it doesn't say launch them. Like, we're not launching them unless it says it.
And this one of those, each one of them has a key?
Yeah, exactly. Each one of them has a key, and they both have to turn their key.
Right.
They have a big argument about it. Gene Hackman tries to replace He's like, you're out of line. I'm going to replace you as executive officer. I'm going to put, the third guy in command above you. And Denzel goes, no, you're not allowed to do that, so I'm holding you in contempt. You're under arrest, which didn't make any sense to me, because one guy says he's going to do something, and then somehow Denzel, who's second in command, usurps him and basically goes, you're under arrest, and the whole crew agrees with him. So Gene Hackman gets sent. Yeah, it's mutiny, basically. Gene Hackman gets sent like to the bottom of the ship with his little Jack Russell Terrier dog, and who's his like little partner. And now Denzel's in charge of the ship, and they have to figure out how to get communication back because they want to know what that message said. So basically, the whole rest of the movie is like, what did this message say? Who was right? Gene Hackman or Denzel?
Right.
They kind of like lead you along the whole time.
So, I mean, the whole movie is about like doubt and what would you do.
Right, exactly.
Those are the two major themes, which is great. I mean, like that, I mean, that's like 12 Angry Men. Like that's, that's a classic plot device. It could be done really powerful, and they did a good job in it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it kind of shows his age a little bit. Some of the acting is cheesy, and some of the action sequences are just like not very well done. But I mean, Gene Hackman and Denzel are both very good actors, so they kind of carry it. Denzel especially. This is like a very young Denzel. I think he's only like in his early 30s at this point. It was pretty good. I'm a big Tony Scott fan. Like I said, it's not his best work. Like Spy Game was like one of my favorite movies of all. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
I imagine as it's getting more and more intense, for some reason, the coolant systems in this place died, and they're just sweating in like a hot box just to show.
You can't.
Just to show how
well, here's the
intense
deal.
it's
It's a Tony Scott movie, so I'm just going to guess, and this is based off of Top Gun. Everyone is very sweaty.
Yes, there's a lot of sweat.
Very sweaty.
There's
all the time.
There's actually one random like boxing scene that felt completely out of place to me.
Sure.
Like Denzel is like working out in like I guess the submarine's gym or whatever.
You've never gone sub boxing?
And he's like sparring with somebody and like hitting a heavy bag, and there's like music playing. Like it was like a scene from Rocky. I was like, it was just so out of place. But whatever.
What I've seen
there was sweat everywhere.
Sure.
Since we started doing this show and all the Tony Scott movies we watched, he loves sweat.
He loves sweaty dudes.
Like sweat is the first actor.
But I guess if you're like in a crowded submarine, you're going to be, it's realistic.
Well,
you're going to be sweating.
You got life and death at stake. You know,
right.
You're going to be sweaty, but
he
loves sweaty sailors. And who doesn't?
Right.
Charlie.
I've been debating which one I want to talk about because we only have time for one. So I will go with a movie from the mid-'90s that for some reason was my buddy's favorite movie. It was like my buddy Chris watched this movie in theaters 6 times. I shit you not. We were all excited about it because we read the book and we were like waiting for it. And we were hoping it was going to be like another Jurassic Park, but lo and behold, Congo did not live up to the expectations expected of Michael Crichton.
I saw that
at
coming.
the time. My buddy's like, for some reason, it was so hyped up at the time because I think they were trying to go off the money train that was Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah. Jurassic Park, Michael Crichton. It was...
Yeah.
The movie couldn't fail.
Nope.
And yet...
It did.
It did.
Well, I mean, like, at its basic description, it's very similar to Jurassic Park in a lot of ways. Family, adventure, creature, threat of some sort. I mean, that's kind of like Congo and kind of like Jurassic Park. Like, those themes are there. But the problem is, you get Spielberg in Jurassic Park who does a very good job of blending family fun with horror.
Right.
And not beating you over the head with gore.
Also, the movie of Jurassic Park used parts of the book Jurassic Park, which I think was a big help to the movie Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas the book for Congo was thrown away.
Yeah, so the basic plot of Congo is there's a telecommunications company that somehow gets wind of these super diamonds that I guess... you can just beam technology through like they don't explain the science of
diamonds.
it.
They're great.
For some reason, they have to exist around volcanoes.
Of course.
So they randomly pick the right volcano, and Bruce Campbell and his expedition is there, and they're beaming back on a satellite saying we found them. You know, like lo and behold, and they do a demo of like this super laser gun that he builds, and he drops like a diamond in it, and it shoots a laser beam out. They've foreshadowed that they will be using laser guns at some point in this movie, and then all of a sudden they get attacked by like these crazy gorillas. The image is so unclear what attacked them, but the mystery is killed already. This threat,
like
this mysterious threat,
gorillas or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Super gorillas.
Tim Curry's in the movie, and it's like it's the legend of the killer ape or something like that.
What accent is he doing?
It is like a mixture of like 4 different accents. I don't
South
know.
African?
It is uncomfortable to listen to. And like every time that he talks, I'm just like taken out of the movie completely. Bruce Campbell plays Laura Linney's fiance, kind of. Her boss is Bruce Campbell's father. And the boss is the cliche bad guy who's like, I don't care what has to get done. You guys get down there and get those diamonds. So she's like, what about your son? He's like, well, yeah, you can get him too. That's cool, you know. But like, get those diamonds. So they go on this adventure. Now cut to the side story of this man teaching an ape, Amy, how to sign language and talk, and this new technology.
Talking monkey.
I'm Amy.
Yeah, Amy, good gorilla. Over and over.
But
Amy, good
she
gorilla.
talks like Stephen Hawking,
Yeah,
right? Out of like a robot.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Was that in the book?
Yes,
I don't remember.
That was in the book.
Okay.
What ends up happening is that they link up,
Right.
and they go into the jungle, and you already realize, okay, why are they introducing this ape? You know, like, well, if there's these killer apes out there, it's going to eventually talk to them and like save them or whatever. And lo and behold, yes, like everything that you know is going to happen is lined up within the first like 10 minutes of the movie.
Don't the apes get armed with the laser weapons?
Yeah, there's a point where, like, in the lost city of Zinj, where they get there.
Yes, yeah.
Is that where we put that?
The apes pick up the laser weapons and
they start fighting the
But
humans,
yeah, we
right?
use them and then we destroy them. Yeah, so the movie, trudges on. So, like, the main thing I took from this is that its major failure is that it wants to be family, fun, adventure. And then it just gets, like, they go horror show with it. People's heads are getting, like, bashed in by these gorillas and whatnot. Like, and there's no, these two tones don't mix at all.
Well, it's kind of like isn't it one thing? It's like one person disappears and the next person disappears, and isn't that kind of what happens?
Yeah,
essentially.
Yes, every time they go off somewhere to look for blue diamonds,
Somebody gets attacked.
that like whoever got left behind is going to get their head bashed in some way.
All right, well, that's week 14. I don't think I said that at the beginning of the show. This week 14 of the This Week in Film podcast. Last week's question, Ray, was pretty popular. I believe it was, what movie do you need to see as a kid in order to enjoy as an adult? John, on Facebook, a.k.a. our old friend Chibi Foz, says The Last Starfighter. Could not agree more. I watched that movie a couple weeks ago. It is tough to get through, and I never saw it as a kid. Like, it is brutal.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Don't just let it go, because you're never going to appreciate it. Scott from Facebook says Explorers, which apparently there's an Ethan Hawke movie where he makes a computer that turns into a spaceship that goes to space.
It was one of my favorites.
And I am angry that I never knew about this.
Yeah, it's I wanted to watch it, but I can't get my hands on it. Yeah.
Jill says The Dark Crystal. On Twitter, at Malcolm Powder of the Smorgasbord podcast, he says Stargate, and I hope that he's wrong.
Yeah, I love Stargate.
I love Stargate, but I haven't seen it in such a long time.
I guess same with me, too. I haven't seen it in a while either.
And that's a Val Kilmer. Not Val Kilmer.
That's Kurt Russell.
Yeah. I love Kurt Russell.
At BFGC podcast of the Bad Films, a Good Company podcast, they said The Goonies, and I would agree. Like, I love The Goonies, but I can imagine looking at that as an adult going, this is obnoxious. Why don't these kids ever shut up?
I don't know.
At SPF Oz Music, he says he's afraid for his life now after he says this, but Star Wars A New Hope. Says he only watched it for the first time recently and he doesn't get it.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, he's a brave man for admitting it.
Yep.
Tough life.
Brave dead man. At Wilmington Dan said Young Einstein, which is the Yahoo Serious movie. I've never
Even
seen
as a kid, I didn't like that movie. I was like, this movie's so stupid.
But Dan also adds, and the movie The Wraith, which I had never heard of, but it seemed like it would be up
The
your
Wraith is
alley.
one of my favorite movies. I got to rewatch it now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then our very own Keith, he responded with Space Jam.
Wow.
Gonna watch Space Jam as a kid.
I can see that totally.
Ray, do you have a new Rays Rayndom Rayquest for this week?
Yeah, so this week, with watching Crimson Tide and talking about it with other people, it seemed like when you say that movie, you kind of, some people get it confused with other submarine movies, and I started thinking, like, there's a lot of submarine movies out there.
There are.
My question is pretty simple. What's your favorite movie that takes place on a submarine?
Very nice.
All right.
Charlie, where can the people find us on the internet?
SoundCloud, Facebook, the YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Twitter, and This Week in filmpodcast.com. We have a website?
Yeah, we sure do.
The YouTube.
You can find us on the YouTubes. And Charlie, your book available on Amazon?
Yeah, it dropped. Boy Zero is on Amazon. I even have an author bio, which is pretty
Nice.
sweet.
Very cool.
Yeah, I was
I
excited
actually
about
think
that.
I did read that.
Nice.
Ray, you have anything else to add?
No, I got nothing.
I don't have anything else to add. Oh, you know what I do? Please rate, review, or subscribe to us, especially on the iTunes. If you could write us reviews on iTunes. Somehow it matters. If you're unaware, we also do a video edition of this show that is on YouTube. We take an older episode. It's a more condensed version of the show you just listened, but we intercut it with relevant clips from the movies that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that, check us out on This Week in Film podcast on YouTube. Other than that,
see how handsome we are.
yeah, mostly me. If that's all we have to say, we'll see you next week.
See you guys.